Yeah, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Hand grenades. Oh, I should get the other one so it's actually plural.
Yes.
That's stupid of me. It should be hand grenade, not, does it say S? What does it say? Hand grenade. It says S.
It does.
I should have like two, at least two.
I have one at home.
Yeah, I got one in the actually drawer of the other room, but I just never thought of it until right now.
You have
that's
two
like
of
false
them?
advertising.
You have 2 hand grenades?
Yeah, we get this one. This is the World War II hand grenade, and the one in the drawer in the other room is the Vietnam era hand grenade, the kinder, gentler hand grenade, because these hand grenades are inhumane.
I wonder what I have. I only have one.
Is it humane?
Well, I've never used it.
So, because you want to co-sponsor hand grenade hunting for deer this year?
Yes.
Yes, I thought you would.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
So I'm Gary Hopper, and with me today is Representative John Burt.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
From the big city of Goffstown, is sitting in for Matt Connerton, who's a lazy, good-for-nothing jerk and didn't show up today. No, wait. Oh, yeah, he had some business he had to do, actually, but...
Well, what's more important than coming on your show, Gary?
Well, he's for his business, he works for, he's at a conference. I don't know why he couldn't have flown back.
Yeah.
At his own expense to do this show. It's that important.
Well, I wished he showed me all of the,
Just press buttons. Just press buttons.
Well, what happens if something happens?
Then at least something happened on the show. If nothing happens on the show...
What would happen if Manchester went dark? I pressed a button, all of a sudden...
There would be an awful lot of extra children in 9 months.
Yes.
Yes. So, if you care about the population, press buttons. So, anyway, to our guest today is Gus Benton. What's your actual first name? It's
My first name is Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. That's got to be Irish.
No, that's actually French-Canadian.
You're from Montrebec.
Yeah.
I hate the French. Anyway, so...
Well, not the Canadian French.
They're
nice.
Them especially.
No, it's the ones over
I really think with all the guns we got in New Hampshire, we should be able to take over Quebec.
Well, I think
If we get together as a group, say 5 or 10 of us.
Well, they don't have guns up there.
That's right. Exactly.
I think we could just use baseball bats and just go up and club a few and
But what's the point of collecting guns if you don't get to use them for a good, overthrow of a government?
Well, that's true.
And then we can convert the buggers to English.
Well, what was it? Back in the early 90s, they tried to do that?
Do you know that most people in Quebec, well, not most, there's a very, very large population in Quebec that speak English?
They but they pretend they don't when you go in and ask where the bathroom is.
No. The French-speaking people do that. And I'm fluent in French. I grew up there till I was 5, came here. But from town to town, you have an English town, you have a French town, and it goes town to town throughout Quebec. There's a lot of towns that are English, just like having dry towns in Massachusetts. And you drive around looking for.
So your analogy is that a dry town is like English speaking, and the French are lushes.
That's right.
Okay, just making sure we get the analogy correct.
Well, we have dry towns in New Hampshire,
We do.
Monroe.
Are they one of the 4 that are not incorporated?
No, they're incorporated. What happened is the town people were so angry at this store owner, they made it a dry town, which I thought, come on, that's pushing it a little. Wow. And they are still a dry town today.
Oh, that's too funny. So it was retaliation against somebody. That's funny.
It was.
That's actually kind of the cool thing about small towns. You can actually get away with some super cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that's really why most government, the best government, stays local.
Yes.
Because you can affect change.
Yep.
As soon as it goes up to the state level, you lose a lot of control. And as soon as it goes to D.C., you lost it completely. Right?
Yes.
Am I right? Am I right about something?
You are.
Okay, good.
100%.
So,
now, does Matt ever agree with you?
Sometimes. I don't think it's deliberate.
Oh, it's just by accident.
Yeah, it's just coincidence, kind of, the odds are of every now and again.
Yeah.
So what'd you think about Abomination? Hey, what's the call-in number? I always forget to announce that because I can't read it anyway. What's the call-in number?
I don't see it.
It's not on the screen, is it?
What's Matt? Do you have Matt's phone number? We can call him up.
give him a call. That's right. But that comment about somebody asked about an AK-47, which I thought was a setup.
I know.
And then, but that was a cool setup because it was a softball, though, I think, to Obama, and he quote unquote hammered it home with that comment about, well, you got to reinstate the assault weapons ban. I bet you he lost 1 million votes with that one statement,
Yeah,
No, at least.
right?
absolutely.
Because before that, he had already says he's in favor of the Second Amendment and everything else. And in the first 4 years, the one of the quote-unquote third rails of politics is you stay away from the gun issues. That's what they did in 92 and 3, and why they all got booted out of there in 94.
Yes.
Was because you got people like Dick Sweat who said he would never vote for an assault weapons ban, and he did. He ended up with an ambassadorship instead of his congressional position, but so he made some deal behind the scenes.
Well, what I didn't like is that Obama started talking about hunting. And the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
No, it's gonna happen.
I believe the deer feel assaulted. They are assaulted.
Yes.
When you, so regardless of the weapon, it's still
The
an
deer are
assault
going
weapon.
to feel assaulted no matter
That's
what you
right.
kill them with.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. If they get a 30-aught six shot through their lungs, I don't think they care much if that's a 30 caliber bullets from an AK-47 or a 300 Win
Not at
Mag.
all.
Well, what country is the safest country in the world? I think it's the Swedes.
It's the switch. Yeah.
Yeah, and they, at high school graduation, the government gives them an assault
It
rifle.
makes you want to go there.
They put them through training first.
Well, they do.
They put them through training, and they
Yeah.
every man and woman in Switzerland gets an assault weapon, and after training. And
Is
they
that the
have to-
Steyr AUG? Is that the one they use? The Steyr
I'm
AUG?
not familiar with which one they use, but I know they have to have it within arm's reach for the first 6 months that they have it. They're not allowed to go anywhere without it,
Yeah.
and then they hang on to it for the rest of their lives. So
Yep.
there's not an adult in Switzerland that doesn't have one
And doesn't know how to use it.
Well, they've been trained.
Yeah,
Nobody-
that's
and-
awesome.
No,
Nobody goes there.
the status of being the safest country in the world, that's just coincidental, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
I
course
mean,
is.
it
Of
has
course
nothing
it
to
is.
do that everybody's armed.
No.
Yeah, no, I would never do that.
No, if everybody's armed, that means it's actually one. If you look at years ago, I don't know if they've done it recently. There was a publication that said the least safe, one of the least safe states to live in was New Hampshire.
No.
Yes.
No, we're one
I'm
of the
not
safest.
kidding you. No,
New Hampshire?
no, I saw it. It was a list.
No, Vermont and New
No,
Hampshire go back
no,
and
no,
forth
no,
on
no,
the
no,
safest
no,
states.
no. It was the least safe.
It can't be.
And no, it can be.
Compared to like New Jersey, for instance?
No, New Jersey and New York and Massachusetts were one of the safest.
I can see New York because it's so widespread that the per ratio population
Well,
for guns and crime.
Well,
might
no,
not be
I'm
affected
I'm
by-
actually making a point because it's politics time, and everybody's looking at the statistics and stuff like that, and they'll show you statistics on Romney
Oh,
and
yeah.
Obama. And this was a statistic published that said New Hampshire was one of the least safe states in the country,
Wow.
and it was put out by pro-gun control people, and it's one of the least safe states because we have the most liberal gun laws.
Ah,
One of the most liberal gun laws in the country, and that's how they determine which states were safe and not
they
safe.
took a survey of the deer.
Yes. Well, I didn't know if the poll came from like WMUR, which
No,
is pretty
no, no, no.
skewed.
No.
Slanted
Yeah, they're
one
pretty
way.
skewed up, but no, not
Yeah.
them. But I just thought that was pretty funny. That was quite a while ago. But that's why when the people are looking at the statistics and things like that, you got to look where that information's coming from, because if you read that, you go, wow, I wouldn't want to move there. But then you actually look at the crime rate and actually how many people get hurt or killed, and
Yeah.
it's very low.
So are we in the top two?
Yes.
Or as far as safest, if you go by
Safest.
statistics that
Yeah.
determine whether somebody is or is not safe within their own, home or out in the street, yes, it is. But if you're going by the laws of how many restrictions on firearms we're the least safe.
Well,
It's
in my
coincidence.
in
Just-
Goffstown, the local paper, somebody has written a letter to the editor slamming me for voting for the, what was it, the Castle Doctrine bill that we had, which allows you to defend yourself out in public now. Before, it could only
I
be
thought
in
it
your
only
home.
allowed you to defend yourself if you owned a castle.
No, you don't have to own a castle.
Really?
They called it the Castle Doctrine,
Right.
but you don't have to own a
So you
castle.
don't have to have the moat and the alligators and the piranha and.
No.
Oh, I've been digging for nothing then.
No, you could defend yourself anywheres. And I'm thinking, well, they're criticizing me for
I was
this?
almost done with the drawbridge.
Well, I'd still build it.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, then that way, when your town comes to get you, you can just bring the drawbridge up.
As long as you have alligators.
Yeah, so I was thinking alligators.
Without the alligators.
And the thing,
Wow.
no, alligators are okay because like I'm just filling the water with antifreeze.
But how big is it? Because I know Manchester and Goffstown now, unfortunately, has one of those fire trucks like with a 5,000 foot reach. You know, those big long.
Yeah.
So could they reach you? I mean, is the moat that big?
The driveway part is kind of where the most extended, so
Yeah.
the rest of it's a small moat.
Yeah. So they couldn't get the truck in.
He's helping me build it.
Yeah.
That's how he knows.
Yeah. Put a lot of curves going in.
They can't leave the driveway.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not off-road.
Yeah, they're not about to get out of their trucks either. I'll tell you that.
No.
No, these are big alligators. Let's see. What did you think about the what's her name getting involved in that debate last night? Coming to defense of Obama over the comment in the Rose Garden.
Oh, I know.
That was pathetic.
What was her name? The lady that was the moderator.
Yeah, I don't, Candy something.
Candy one way, maybe, but
Yeah. Anyway,
no, she's. Oh yeah, no, she's.
it was amazing though because it's like for 2 weeks, over 2 weeks, the Obama administration tried to foist this scam about it being all about a protest and. It wasn't
Well, it was
even
over
close.
video.
It was
What was the story?
what actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Well, it was those 4 people that got killed in Libya in our embassy.
yeah, the ambassador, ambassador hadn't gotten killed in I don't know 30-something years.
Yeah, and for 2 weeks, Obama kept saying, and even the mainstream media reported it as it was the video. Some anti-Muslim video.
It was supposed to be like, in other words, this anti-Muslim video came out, and there's a spontaneous protest out in front of the embassy in Libya, and as a result of that, there were some people who were pretty radical and attacked the embassy and killed the ambassador. There I've heard reports that there was sodomy involved and everything else. I mean, they brutalized these people. It wasn't just killing them; they brutalized them. But that doesn't hit the mainstream media either. And so they kept coming out with a story that it was all about this video. It's this video. Obama said that like 6 times at the United Nations. All of his administration was repeating this. Who's the spokesman he has at the White House? He's going off on the fact that it's about a protest about the video. Nobody's seen the video. There's like 12 people on the entire planet that have actually seen the video that this guy put out. They've arrested him.
Oh yeah, the SWAT goes out at 5 in the morning or midnight,
Yeah,
surround his house and arrest him.
Yeah, because your freedom of speech, that doesn't count if you're attacking Muslims with it. So,
Wow.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's just fair. So, so the truth of the matter was. Now, keep in mind, you got Obama saying that we know that Iran is X number of months away from developing a nuclear weapon. We absolutely are supposed to trust that his intelligence department is so accurate and knows so much that they know within a month or so of when Iran could actually produce a nuclear weapon, which they kind of promised they were going to drop on Israel. However, that same group claimed for 2 weeks that it was over a protest. The fact of the matter is there was never a protest. There was never any people out there protesting anything. It was a deliberate, planned attack where they had I forget what the military terminology for how they plan an attack, and they've got, this going in here, and they've got, some cover fire over here. It was absolutely planned, and it was planned to coincide with 9/11, and they weren't prepared. They had asked multiple times,
Oh, many
times
prior to
for
this.
backup because they didn't have enough troops.
Yeah.
And the Obama administration, they're whether it's him specifically or down the line, had determined that the troops that were hired locally were good enough to fill in that void. Well, the troops that were hired locally are some of the people that were taking pictures inside that embassy. I think it was like a month or two before.
Yeah.
Okay? So the same people that he's relying on to defend these people are the same people that are already shown an inclination to trying to invade that embassy. I think it was a month before there was already an attack on it where they blew a hole through one of the fences. The ambassador himself, in his diary or whatever you want to call it, was saying how it's getting very dangerous. He doesn't know, what to do. But there's this smokescreen from the Obama administration about it being a protest on the stupid film. It was never the case. It was an Al Qaeda or affiliate attack, which Obama doesn't want to admit still exists because they killed Osama bin Laden. So therefore,
Only took them 10 years to find him.
yeah, 10 years to find him, sure. Hey, what's the phone number if people want to call in? Because I don't see it on the screen.
It's on our live feed,
It's on the live feed. What is it anyway?
413
413
0223.
0223. Yeah, if you want to call in 413-0223. But anyway, that's actually what happened. But Obama claims that he initially said that it was a terrorist attack, which he didn't really say that. He said he was generalizing about terror. We will not settle for terror, but he didn't say the attack in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
Now, I've talked with a lot of my military friends, especially the Marine friends that I have. They're extremely angry over this because the Marines do not lose. And they lost there.
Well, they didn't leave enough guys. I mean,
Well, I heard in some of our embassies, because of their culture there, that our Marines aren't allowed to have bullets in their weapons, which I don't know if this is the case there, but I'm going, why?
Well,
You gotta have if you got a gun, you gotta have a bullet in it.
well, if you go back to Jimmy Carter when the Iranians took over the embassy,
Yeah.
it's my understanding those Marines weren't allowed to have bullets. But I don't remember specifically because it's too long ago. But I do know that same group of protesters at that time, I think it really was protesters that got out of hand, tried to storm the Russian embassy first.
Yes.
Guess what they did? They shot them.
Yeah.
Guess what they decided to do? Go over to the American embassy where they're safer.
Yeah.
There you go. Can you imagine during World War II if word got out in Germany that Switzerland had no bullets?
Same
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Would have been done.
Oh, you got a gun? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Whoopsie-doo. Yeah, so, yeah, that happens. I know that, remember our friend, Lynn Blankenbecker.
Yes.
She was in Afghanistan as a medic. She wasn't allowed to put ammo in her 9mm.
That just shocks me.
Especially a woman in that country, you would think they would say, here, have extra.
Oh, dogs are treated better than women over there.
Yeah, exactly. So you would think that would be a particularly dangerous place to put a woman who's going over there to take care of actually a lot of the citizens of Afghanistan and the military guys as a medic. And,
Now, what exactly is the purpose of an embassy to be in such a hostile area?
well, that embassy, that's one of the, I think, the tragic parts is that the ambassador himself had been working on when Benghazi's always been like a very rebellious area of Libya, and before Gaddafi, I think, took over. I could have this not quite right, but essentially, they were building a hospital, and once Gaddafi took over, he didn't like that Benghazi, so he never actually funded it. He never actually supplied the doctors with the stuff they need to actually have a legitimate hospital. The next morning, that our ambassador was going to go to the hospital, to the people running the hospital, and start working out a deal to try to actually create a hospital for the people of Benghazi.
Wow.
And that's who they killed.
Ah. So what was this comment that this lady made?
What lady?
The comment.
The moderator.
Oh,
Well, she said that Obama, President Obama, did say that he said terrorist,
Oh, okay.
and he didn't.
he didn't.
But then she realized somebody must have talked in her ear with her little microphone and said, "Excuse me, you're wrong."
Well, you-
and she did correct herself and said, "Mr. Romney, you are right."
In effect, you're right. But what my mother pointed out, something I hadn't picked up on it, is that when Obama said, looked at her and says, "Look at your notes, or look at the transcript," she picked up the transcript.
Oh. Oh, the moderator lady.
The
did.
moderator picked up the transcript that Obama was pointing to. How he knew she had a transcript,
Yeah.
because he knew he had to ask that question. Was going to be asked that question. I mean, they would have been insane for them not to.
Yeah.
Look
Okay.
at your transcript.
Look at the transcript, and she picked it up.
You didn't read that right? Ask me the question again.
Yeah.
Well, it means that he knew not only the question, they had negotiated it beforehand.
Of course.
And the one thing that they were not supposed to do is be able to know what the questions were in advance. That was part of the rules.
Well, a transcript is not just questions that you're going to have to answer. I'm going to ask this, and you're going to state that.
Yeah, it's
It's both sides.
yeah, it was definitely coordinated. I mean, because theoretically, if that was true, she would have to have a stack of papers on her desk this big to cover all the different possible questions from the pipeline and to abortion to AK-47s to
Yes.
right.
Yep.
She would have to have this huge stack of transcripts of who said what from Romney and Obama if she was going to support or back up any information.
Yeah.
But she held up the transcript. He knew she was going to. They coordinated it. It's
Well,
horrible.
the first debate was it was a slaughter,
Yeah.
and they said that won't happen again.
Hey, we're going to run out of time before we even get
Yes.
to our guests, though.
Yes,
so
we
we're going to
better
move
jump
on.
on.
We're going to move on. So, Gus, how'd you get? Where are you from anyway?
I'm from Canada.
You are from Canada.
I was deported when I was young.
No way.
My dad
That's
came
super
here.
cool.
Yeah, he came here, and there was no work in Canada, and he found a job here. And he was in the process of doing his paperwork while we were living on Lake Ave here in Manchester.
Yeah.
And we went to visit my grandfather, and they were monitoring the calls across the border. And I guess that was the international calls,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they knew when we were coming, and we got to the restaurant. Hey, Grandpa! And cops just swarmed us, and
For
yeah.
what?
Well, because we were illegal, and it took another month and a half or so to get the paperwork wrapped up, and we came back, and we didn't lose the apartment or anything. Everything was fine. But yeah, I'm from Canada, and grew up speaking French, and
So what? No, wait.
So they arrested illegals at one time?
oh yeah.
Now you were arrested
we
by.
don't
I saw
now.
my dad get arrested right at the border.
Really?
Now this is
And
arrested.
escorted to
Arrested by whom? The Americans or the French?
Immigration.
Yeah. Which country?
Oh well, we were going to Canada, and they were Canadian, so it wasn't the Canadians.
So it was the U.S.
We were
So
on
U.S.
soil.
immigration arrested you,
Absolutely.
or your dad.
We were
Or,
in Lancaster, actually. Lancaster, New Hampshire. We
Oh.
pulled in. Our grandfather would meet us there, and then we'd hop in with him and go back.
right.
We were real cautious.
Yeah.
Why would you be so cautious? Why was that a big deal? I thought we went across to Canada all the time. Everybody did.
You had to have a work permit. You couldn't come over here and take somebody else's job. And he didn't speak English, so it took a long time for that paperwork to get through.
Oh.
And he wasn't getting much help on this side because he spoke French. He didn't know how to ask, but he had already begun the process, and it just hadn't completed yet.
Wow.
But yeah, they did arrest
Wow.
people.
Wow.
Huh.
then.
Back in the day.
That's right.
That's pretty interesting. So that was your first brush with the law.
Yeah, I guess you would say so. Yeah.
I try to word this so it
Yeah.
makes them
Very
look
smooth.
more cynical
Very
than.
smooth. very leading also.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, deliberately too.
Yeah.
So, so you grew up in Manchester?
Yeah, I grew up in Manchester. The first school I ever went to was Varney School on the west side, which is
Parker
now,
Varney?
Parker Varney.
That's where my kids are going.
No, not Parker Varney.
Grandkids.
Varney School. It's now
It's
a nursing
apartments. Oh, it is a nursing home?
Oh, okay.
home.
Or is it
I think
apartments?
I think it's apartments.
Yeah, I think I saw a sign said
Yeah.
apartments.
I was
my-
in the third grade when they closed it down, and then I went to St. Pat's.
Is that because of you?
I don't know. They seem to close behind me. I
Yeah.
went to St.
Huh.
Patrick's only for 1 year, and they
They closed that one
they
too?
closed that down.
You get started, you get a so by the time you're in fourth grade, you get a
I didn't
complex.
speak English. I already had a complex.
Oh, really? You didn't? Oh,
I didn't
that's
speak a word of English until I
that's-
was probably in the third grade.
wow.
Yeah.
Now, what accommodations did they have?
None.
None.
Matter of fact, the first day I was in school, I got on the bus, and we were the old Sully's here in Manchester. That
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
kindergarten I went to, and I got on the bus there. We lived at the corner of Varney Street,
Yeah.
South Main, and as we were driving by the house, I was screaming at the bus driver, "Let me out! That's my house!" And I got dropped off somewhere on Lake Ave, and I didn't speak a word of English.
How old?
I was 4.5, 5 years
That's
old.
horrible.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Well, he didn't understand what I was saying. There were no accommodations. And,
I know, but you would think he'd see a kid panicking, he would get an idea that maybe something ain't right, or he doesn't care. I
When
don't
you're
know.
dealing with a lot of 4 and 5 year olds, you probably see a lot of upset kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad though. That's 4 years. 4.
4, 4.5. Well, I was probably 4.5, 5.
Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah. And we got to Lake Ave, and they dropped us. He threw everybody out. Everybody had to get out.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there was a lady that spoke French there. And fortunately, we used to live on Lake Ave. And
Right.
we got dropped off right by that area.
Yeah.
So I knew the area, and we had gone back and forth loading the truck and moving the stuff in the apartment.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of familiar with how to get back to the other side of town. And I led her right back to my house. And
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's cool how God works.
it is.
It is. There's a lot of coincidences that are obviously not coincidences.
That's right.
So okay, so now you've got this criminal record.
Yeah.
I'm such a jerk, but I love it. So anyway, so you get through high school. What got you involved? Because you're heavily involved in politics. John and I see you up at the legislature all the time.
Yes.
What was the instigation for that, or how long ago was that, or?
Well, I've always been interested in what goes on. I first heard about the HARP system in 1988, 89, in that area. And
HARP.
HARP is the high altitude, it's where they moderate the atmosphere and
Yeah.
do all these tests. The echelon system where they can track down anybody's voice. If they get a voice sample, they can track you down anywhere through the phone lines. So those kinds of things always interested me because I was
Right.
interested in electronics.
Okay.
And so I started paying attention to the government. But it was just a curiosity until I was married for about 10 years, had a really bad divorce. I've got 4 daughters. They live here in Bow. Well, they're in college now. One of them's still here.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen my kids in a couple of years. The divorce was bad, and I started just doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
And that turned into, in New Hampshire, you have a thing called a fit parent here. And you're supposed to be able to see your children until there's a fit
You guys don't
parent.
mind if I was out shooting with the grandkids,
Oh,
and I forgot to clean my 9.
There you go.
yeah.
So I was going through this divorce, and I couldn't see my two oldest daughters, and for 2 years I was fighting that battle. And what happened is I just started researching the system and found out there was a lot of flaws in the system. There was a lot of things that weren't being done properly. And in order to, boy, I miss guns.
Oh, cripe! I
That looks
forgot.
very familiar.
Yeah, it's a Beretta 9.
Nice. I had a Taurus PT92.
Can you pass me, will you?
Sure.
Thanks, buddy.
So I got involved with some legal things trying to get my children back.
Yeah.
And I stepped on some toes in Concord and stepped on them rather harshly. And
Yes.
it wasn't appreciated. And there was a judge, Judge Lynn, who's now a Supreme Court judge, who told me that if I didn't stop doing this paperwork, that he was going to put me in jail. And so I wanted to see my children. I had been trying for 2 years already.
Yeah.
And so I continued to do so, and he put me in jail. And,
For?
I put a cloud on an attorney's property. I had.
What's that mean?
That means you put a lien on somebody's property.
Okay,
But
okay.
this was a notice of lien. It was
Yeah.
a notice that the property had been put up as collateral. It wasn't an act. It's more of a common law thing.
Yeah.
So that led into some grand jury indictments, which led to my rights being absolutely abused. I testified for 3 hours before the redress committee in
Yep.
January, and in June they found that Supreme Court Judge Lynn, who was back then a Chief Justice of the Supreme Courts, and Judge Duggan, who was the Supreme Court judge at that time, violated my right to speedy trial, my right to counsel, and had given me excessive bail. Between the two of them, these were the
How much
things.
bail?
It's $25,000 cash.
Oh, come
cash.
Cash, no
on.
bonds.
On what charge?
Paperwork that I had filed with the Registry of Deeds.
In cash, for the
Wow.
viewers, cash means
Cash means
you
cash.
got to come up with
That's
25,000.
right.
Yeah, you
Not
can't.
10%.
Right.
No, no. And so I testified before the House, and the findings of the House were that this is what happened. I was denied counsel, I was given excessive bail, and my speedy trial rights were violated.
It's amazing that we have a situation where somebody like that can have that much sway over somebody else's life.
Well, absolutely.
In that, it's one thing to get angry at somebody. I know John's pissed at me all the time, but it's different if John has actual authority over whether or not I see my kids, whether or not I do
Yes.
this.
So,
The fact that you have to go into a courtroom and kiss anybody's butt
To see your kids.
to see your kids is insane.
no, it's one thing if you're being accused and there's a caution, we have to work, just in case, we're going to take precautions and we're going to do something. I was never accused of anything. There were no accusations.
But even
My-
with that, Gus, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 items that could ever happen where a non-custodial parent cannot see their kids.
Right.
I think
Absolutely.
the judge, our court system, our family court system, well, definitely is broken. But what we have to do is tell the judges, I don't care if the ex-wife or the ex-husband is mad that has the children, you know what? The kid's gonna see the other parent.
You guys are both state reps. You already told the judges. You already told them that they have to have a fit parent hearing before they deny any child the ability to see their parent.
Right.
That's what you already told them. So
Well, but what constitutes unfit? I mean, is it vague?
No, they have to have a fit parent hearing specifically for determining that purpose. You have to know it's going to be a fit parent hearing. You can't just have it. You can't be an ambush, and so you have to prepare for that. No different than you would prepare for something else.
Yeah.
And but that you guys have already told them that. Just like you guys last year, you guys voted on the voter registration.
Yes.
And then some judge comes along and said, it was not, you overrode a veto on that, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Well,
We
we
did?
over many vetoes.
I know many
But
vetoes,
on
but it was.
But that was, yes, the voter
That's what
ID
I
bill.
thought.
Yeah.
And so here you have a veto override, and you have a judge, one guy. We have 424 reps who overrode.
Doesn't it look
one
like
guy's
you're-
veto.
Doesn't it like at the beginning of 007?
Boy, how do you get that so clean?
Yeah, I'm professional.
Do it often.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well,
So
take
like
this one-
like John said, I mean, we had a veto override on voter ID, and you have somebody like a judge, like you said,
Yeah,
going in overriding the will of the people.
That's it.
400 state reps and 24 senators. You're overriding their decision. A 2/3 majority. It wasn't like it was just a bill that slid through, and they're overriding it. Now they could have, if they were actually legitimate, as said, look, we are concerned about this, but it's not within our purview to change things right before an election. we're going to deal with this after the election and try to work with the legislature. But they knew that that wouldn't affect, so they waited till they did it before it went to the appealed it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court again could have defaulted to the legislature because their fundamental position is that if the legislature passes it, it is by definition constitutional until they've had a chance to adequately review it. Instead, they said they didn't have time to review it and just took the lower court's ruling as the law of the land, so to speak, and ordered Bill Gardner to do what he did. And now,
Let me ask you, please define to me what causes something like this to be constitutional. If, for instance, you have 24 senators, they each represent roughly 55,000 people. You got 400 state reps representing roughly 3,300 people each. So if the people decide that something is constitutional through their reps, who is one judge to decide that it's not constitutional?
right. No, I thoroughly agree. It was one of the comments made is that it was deliberately sent to that particular judge in that particular jurisdiction because they knew he was a liberal.
Well, now, let me ask you this now, all right? You have this issue with the judges, just like with this voter registration. They're not doing what our representatives, we voted for you guys. You guys
Yes.
represent all the people of New Hampshire. So they're not following that. No different than the fit parent hearing.
Yeah.
Nobody gets those, all right? But they can't see their kids. Now, we can't figure out who's living here to vote. And this judge is acting absolutely contrary to the will of the people.
Right.
And I hear guys talking about at the State House impeachment. But impeachment's a criminal proceeding. On the other hand, you have something much, much easier.
Bill of address.
Bill of address is nice, but what about lack of good behavior? They're on a good behavior tenure. What happens when they violate the good behavior?
Well,
Now,
that-
what do you consider good behavior?
Well,
If the legislature says this is constitutional, we put this in, one guy vetoed it, we overrode it. We decided it is constitutional, this is how it's gonna be here in New Hampshire. And this judge acts completely against the will of the legislative body. He is acting in bad behavior. He has violated his good behavior tenure. That's it, you're fired.
Well, Representative Itza was on my show the other day, and he told me in the 200-plus years of the state of New Hampshire being a state, we've never impeached a judge.
That's,
Impeachment is
oh, no,
criminal.
yeah, maybe.
The only way we ever get rid of judges is as you speak.
No, we got rid of a judge down near the southern part of the state.
Well, there was a judge that left office in early 2003, 4, something. I think it was Brock,
Yeah.
a Supreme Court judge.
Well, that's what they'll do. They'll leave before they.
They'll leave before. Okay, the Judge Duggan had said he was going to retire in
Yeah.
July.
Well-
My hearing in the redress committee was in February.
Right.
He retired in January all of a sudden. Okay,
Just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. So, but these judges are acting in bad behavior when they go against the clear intent of the legislative body. So why are they allowed to continue to do so? They're acting against their good tenure behavior.
Now, when you clean your Glock, do you ever have?
That was a Beretta.
Oh, Beretta, do you ever have extra pieces at the end?
All the time. What the hell's that? So anyway, that gives it because we're going to run out of time to get to one of the things you want to talk about. I think that's indicative of what what we're going to end up talking about is the complete breakdown of the fact that the government really doesn't represent the people. Agreed?
Absolutely.
Well, but question 2 on the ballot, which I encourage, if this airs before the election,
It will.
for everybody to vote for question 1, 2, and 3, to be honest.
Right.
It's not a question. You guys represent the people of New Hampshire. You voted on it. You
Yes.
overrode a veto. And now one judge decides, that guy right there should be put on, he should be given a chance, due process, a chance to defend himself.
And then shot.
I don't know how familiar you are with the redress petitions,
Yep.
okay, but the redress traditionally, the way it's supposed to be done, Article 31 clearly states, the legislature shall assemble for the redress of public grievances.
Right.
We've been grieved by this judge, And somebody needs to take this judge before the entire legislative body for a hearing.
Right.
But
Give
won't
them
question
due
two
process,
help
And then
fix?
fire 'em.
No.
But question two
no.
will help fix this
No,
situation?
not really. Question 2 was specifically to adjust a provision in the Constitution. The Constitution was amended in the 80s
78, yep.
to allow for the court to make its own rules as far as when they're going to meet, rules of evidence and things like that. And when it was passed, that's what it said. But by the time it got into the Constitution, somewhere along the lines, of a little trick play.
I think it's 78A.
It was added to that sentence that those rules will have the force and effect of law. And as soon as they added that, they actually, in effect, made the state Supreme Court a super legislature.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to remedy. So far, to the best of my knowledge, that has not been abused yet, but it's sitting there like Damocles' sword above the legislature, waiting for them to do something about it. And the legislature has been so inept as far as dealing with judges, because you have a lot of people up there that are lawyers, and a lot of the Democrats typically won't go against the judicial system, because obviously, like in this particular case,
Well, it takes
they-
real men.
well, no, in this particular
With
case,
guns.
it favors the Democrats.
Yeah.
Because if nobody has to really register to vote, that means they can get a lot more people. Bill Gardner, I think, is on record as saying something to the effect, or it was said during one of his interviews, I'm not positive it was him, that in effect we could have more people voting in this coming election than actually live in New Hampshire.
Absolutely.
And they can be voting from, California to Timbuktu. Theoretically, they could be actually voting from Britain or any other country.
As long as
Because
they're here.
no, they don't even have to be here.
They don't even have.
I don't think they even need to be here.
Yeah.
That's how twisted the system is right now.
There's a simple, an impeachment is a criminal proceeding, so they have to have committed a crime. On the other hand, they hold their position under good behavior, and under the good behavior tenure, if they violate good behavior is doing the will of the legislative body. Okay, they represent the people. It's the law. It's you guys overrode a veto. That makes it pretty constitutional.
Yes.
Right. Yep. But anyway, so you're here tonight to talk about is your
The Union States Project.
the Union States project, and on Facebook, what I fundamentally said is it's Plan B.
Yes.
It is very possible the way we're spending, especially on the federal level, like drunken sailors, that we could default.
Yep.
So your Plan B is what we do if we default.
Well, first of all, I'm kind of a Johnny-come-lately with this because there's people who have been working on this for 2 years, and they're spread out throughout the United States.
Yeah.
But and for more information, you can go to unionstatesproject.info, www.
Yep.
And what happens is if you look at your personal economy at home, you know that you cannot spend more money than you've got coming in. And people have been seeing what's going on.
Unless you get a credit card.
Unless you have a credit card, absolutely. And that's, for instance, the Icelandic economy was fairly solid up until 2003, 4, 5, right in that range.
Yep.
And they went through the same mortgage situations we had. And their representatives are a ratio of 1 per 5,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to answer to the people for all of a sudden their economy's upside down. And the way they answered that is they put bankers in jail, forgave 25% of the mortgages, and now everything's fine again. Because the crime was committed by the bankers.
Right.
And in Europe, they're not doing that. Because they're not doing that, there's a lot of us that are worried that the euro is going to crash.
Yeah. A
Well,
lot
I
of
think it
people.
is going
A
to.
lot of people don't know is that the European Union is our biggest trading partner too. I think. Well, maybe Canada. I could be totally full of crap.
No, I'd be
I thought it was.
surprised.
I thought it was the EU though.
I would be very surprised if it was Canada. I imagine there's a lot there, but not the majority.
But at any rate.
So, if the European European Union goes down, and I guess there's people watching the CAC index. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really important. It's
Yeah,
a
I
group
would
of-
think that's wicked important with initials like that.
It's a group of they monitor they monitor a group of corporations and as a bulk and see how they're going along. And when the CAC index gets to a certain point, then they're figuring the inevitable collapse of the European Union is next. When that happens, they figure once the union goes down, if it does, they're figuring possibly 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks before our economy suffers the impact of that.
Right.
And if our government is a corporation, it's set up as a corporation, and when and for more on that, you can look at the Reconstruction Act of 1871, describes how the United States corporation was set up.
1871 Reconstruction Act, was that right after the Civil War?
Right after the Civil War, there was the
Right.
Reconstruction Act in '67. There was another one in '67. A few months later, they're only a couple of pages thick. They're very, very simple. There was another one in '68.
So even an Irishman like me could understand it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It might take you a while. but It's only one page.
And bills back then weren't 1,600 pages.
Bills back then were single item bills. They had to be read 3 times and then voted on. And by the way, petitions in the House during back then would come before a joint body of the legislature and be voted on the same way. Read single item. So anyway, we Union States Project.info. We are concerned that the economy could take a pretty severe hit, and if the government cannot pay its debt, if they're called on and cannot pay their debts to the Russian and Chinese governments, they're going to default. If they default, it's the concern is that our military will then default to the United Nations because if
Well,
the
no,
corporation
okay,
goes
stop there. What do you base that on?
It's research that's being done. It's fairly detailed. For instance, a lot of people don't realize, but we've got 2 seals
Right.
on here, and this is the seal from 1776, and then you have the seal from 1784. So you have an organic seal and you have a corporate seal, and the corporation, in New Hampshire, is incorporated into the United States, and the United States is actually. I printed this up for you guys so you can take a look at it, but right at the top there, when you're suing somebody, you have to have their accurate location in federal court,
Right.
otherwise they'll get thrown out.
Right.
For that purpose, they have RSA 382-A, Chapter 9, Section 307, location of debtor. And here in the United States, it's, paragraph H says the location of the United States, if the United States were to be a debtor, and it is. It says the United States is located in the District of Columbia.
Right.
Okay, it is a corporation. And then under definitions, under 28 U.S.C. 3002, paragraph 15, it says the definition of United States means a federal corporation. So it is a corporation, and when the corporation goes bankrupt, or it's called on its debt and enters bankruptcy, for instance, they liquidate. And it is a very grave concern we have that our military will default to UN control, and I really don't think, I don't know how possible that is, how probable it is. I'm not an economist. Some people are much more gloomy about things than that,
Right.
as far as, the economy aspects of it. And I don't know if that's what happens with the military, but that's what we're concerned about. So what we've done is we've organized people in various states, and Virginia did their paperwork to the United Nations and to The Hague a year and a half ago, claiming their sovereignty as a state, and South Carolina did theirs 2 weeks ago. Virginia did theirs right around that same time. North Carolina's doing theirs this week. And we're working on ours right now. We're
No.
looking for people in the original 13 colonies to go back and accept the Articles of Confederation, accept the New Hampshire Constitution, and accept the Declaration of Independence as founding documents, and then move on. And that leaves out the
Now,
Constitution.
when you say people in Virginia have sent to the United Nations, are you talking about the elected officials in the Capitol, or are you talking about a separate group of private citizens that are forwarding
A
this?
separate group of private citizens.
Okay.
And they're doing it because the legislative body in their state is no different than the legislative body in our state. This is the seal you guys get on your paperwork, the
Yeah,
corporate
yeah.
seal. And you guys are operating in a corporate capacity on behalf of the people of New Hampshire.
Right.
And that's not acting in the de jure area. De jure meaning lawful de facto is what we're operating in right now, which is not fully, it's corporate. So that's what the concern is.
And so, oh, crap, we got like 3 minutes. So if somebody wants to understand this more and get information, because the probability or the possibility of us defaulting is getting better all the time.
It is.
I mean, the European Union has said we're all set, we'll figure this out, and then a month or two later, next thing you know, Greece is about to default again, and
Well,
I mean,
The
Germany.
Germans are supporting the entire economy.
Right, and there's-
they've bailed out Greece, they've bailed out Spain. The German people are being liquidated for the benefit of the other.
Of
nine
everybody
countries.
else, it's like us.
They're not gonna take it.
No, and it's like with us bailing out all these huge banks,
Yeah.
you know, in the banking crisis.
I heard
The
this-
same thing with the German people. They ended up having to bail out everybody else, and eventually, they're going to get sick of it.
They are gonna get sick of it. So what's going on over there is gonna come over here. It's
Yep.
called contagion. And there's a huge amount of research that's been done on this. It's laid out, and the details are available.
Right.
And there are people that know this issue a lot more than I do. Unfortunately, they're in Pennsylvania and Virginia, Indiana. So, we've got people, Michigan, some great people, just people who really know this issue.
Yeah.
And if you go to www.unionstatesproject.info, you can listen to a recording, roughly 45 minutes, that
Okay.
explains the details of what's going on.
Can you put that on my Facebook account?
Of
Link
course.
it, and then I'll put it on Rock, or you can put it on Rock Paper Hand Grenades, so people can go to my Facebook Rock Paper Hand Grenades and look up whatever they want, because a lot of stuff going on. I don't particularly, because as much as I'm a Republican in principle only, and I see what's going on in D.C. and it seems very, and I think that's why we have such a low voter turnout, is because you put the Democrats in charge and they spend a lot of money, then you put the Republicans in charge and they spend a lot of money. They just spend it. They just get different constituencies that get the kickbacks. There's so much money in D.C. and it's so top heavy. It's like the Tower of Babel. Eventually, you keep putting all that weight up at the top. Eventually, it's going to tip over.
So, well,
And I think that's what's happening. Like you said, in Germany's basically holding up the entire
if it
European.
weren't for the Germans, it would have
Yeah, they'd be
already
gone. They would have been
yeah,
gone.
they'd be gone.
Whether they can dissolve into their separate states again, I don't know. But that's a huge
The banks caused this problem.
right.
It was not the lazy people of Greece. It was not the lazy people of Spain. It was the banks. And just like Iceland, they need to take care of business. They need to go after the people that caused the problem and not take it out on their people.
Yep. I know that's exactly what has happened.
We have the same problem here in the United States
Yeah.
with the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Same
So-
exact issue.
No, I absolutely agree. I think it's just it's a shame. What you see going on in D.C. over the last 30 or 40 years, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. That's why I think on this show many times I've advocated for welfare and everything else to be run as locally as possible.
It used to be. We
It
used
used
to
to
have
be.
an overseer of the poor.
Yeah. And that way, if John, something happens to John, and I'm his neighbor, and my tax money's going locally, and I say, oh, John had an accident, he can't pay his bills, and all of a sudden my money's going to him, I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Because I'm helping a friend or a neighbor. Then if I go see him at Riley's buying a $1,000 shotgun, I can kick him right in the kneecaps.
There you go.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
That's
You
right.
think that was bad, check this out, and start hitting them. But you know what I mean? But there's accountability.
Things need to be brought back
Yeah.
down to the county.
If they were brought back locally, the federal government would never have the money to
No.
extort more money out of us. Hey, we're out of time. Gus, thank you very much. Go to you're going to put that on Facebook. We'll try to get that information out. Representative Burt, you're all right.
Well,
I
I
don't care
appreciate
what I
that.
said about you behind your back. You're all right. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you next week.